Back Row Ministry, the world premiere, Mr. Mahdi coming at you live and direct. So, had some issues uploading the part 3 of my piece on Harriet, so I'm going to finish it up now and finish up my comparison and contrast with the actual comparison and contrast of both films. So did force myself to watch the Harriet movie, and just really want to compare it to A Woman Called Moses. Remember, A Woman Called Moses is the film where Cicely Tyson actually played the great Harriet Tubman. So got to see Cynthia Erivo's depiction in the film, and she's not, like I say, Cynthia Erivo is not a bad actress. She does put a lot of emotion into the character, but the thing I don't like is when we talk about the strength piece and a lot of the things that Harriet was able to achieve, and a lot of the awe of Harriet was kind of taken away from the movie. And this is my problem with agenda films, and that's what this is. This is an agenda film. Women discounting themselves, and I talk a lot about this, and I don't understand why women do this. And it's one thing to say, well, men always paint us in the submissive light, and they always want to portray us as weak and always want to portray us as dependent upon them. But then you get a female director who does this herself. There was not a man directing this. This was her directing this. She kind of controlled which direction this film would go, and she discounted women herself. But Hollywood demands this. No matter where a woman is placed in Hollywood, Hollywood is still going to demand a woman discount herself. So even female directors have been guilty of portraying characters they shouldn't portray in very weak roles, that they need man for every aspect of everything, even though that's not the agenda you're trying to push. But that's the agenda they're going to make sure in the elites Hollywood that's going to be pushed, because they're going to remind women who's in control one way or the other. So Harriet in this film is kind of depicted as a person who is strong but still kind of meek. Is strong but still kind of needy. And in contrast to the Cicely Tyson Harriet, she was a woman. She was strong. She still had her needs. She hurt like any other human being. But I think the major contrast was she was a person who was able to pick herself back up and kind of find a way to make it through. And that was all a telling for her faith and her belief in her higher power and her belief that things could get better. And she was very organized. And that's one thing I saw with the Cicely Tyson version. You watch that Cicely Tyson film, you see her ability to organize, her ability to plan. Couldn't read. This lady was functionally illiterate, but had the ability to organize, ability to kind of plan and put things together. Cynthia Erivo's version was kind of all over the place. Really didn't have a ability to really put things together, was kind of at the whims of whoever, kind of real fearful at times when there shouldn't have been a lot of fear, because Harriet she was afraid but confident that okay, this can work. And you kind of, you got the timid sense that they wanted to put in the movie, that they always had to put in every movie, that the woman is always timid and not confident things are going to work. They'll push their way through, and I didn't like that part of the film, because it takes away from who Harriet really was. It takes away from a lot of key points. And then we take away from some things that they could have put in the film that does not discount women. So let's talk about several things that could have been put in the Harriet film that was in A Woman Called Moses. The Quakers' involvement in the Underground Railroad. The Quakers' involvement is not in this film. And there was a lot of Quakers involved in the Underground Railroad, and there was a Caucasian woman in The Woman Called Moses that's in the biography that actually was the first person to help Harriet kind of learn the ins and outs of the Underground Railroad, learn, basically what the Underground Railroad is all about. So their depiction of the black minister who's a key intricate part of the Underground Railroad, come on, that's not even logical. Not even like, you think after a while somebody wouldn't have told on him? It was a reason why the Underground Railroad worked. So if we say we're going to do things a certain way, let's be honest about the history. The Underground Railroad worked because there were some positive spiritual Caucasians that was involved in the Underground Railroad. That's why it worked. That's the only way it could have worked. You had to have someone who was able to get away with some of this stuff. And that's where Caucasian came into play. That's where the Quaker community came into play inside of this. So her first stop was to this Quaker woman's house who she had found out the information from via her being hired out and working in a town, selling her goods in town, that this woman she helps people get to freedom. And that's where she received the information about the Underground Railroad from a woman. And this is what I'm talking about, discounting yourself. Be the first one to say, well, we all got to depend on men for this. She learned the information from a woman. But women are so quick to discount themselves. Well, we can't have that in the film. She has to learn it from a man. Discounting yourself, part one. Another big discount is Harriet's ability to navigate through the woods and the rivers. This was an ability she learned from her father. Now, remember this discount. Let's go to discounting how it's always said that fathers teach their sons more than their daughters. This case, we have a father that equally taught, his daughters and sons the same stuff, but gave a little bit more to Harriet. Harriet had a great navigational ability of how to work that river, how to work through the wooded areas of the county she was in. She knew how to do that. She knew how to navigate herself around. And that was one of her great skills, being a great navigator. That what made her a great conductor. But what do they do in the movie? No, let's discount that. No, you need a man to get through the forest and help you navigate. So they get the snitch black guy to be her tracker because Harriet needed a tracker. It's no way that a woman can navigate through the woods and the river. She needs a man to help her do this. So as a female director, I'm going to discount women a little bit more. Once again, pointing the finger and saying men are doing the discounting when you got a female director discounting her own people, discounting her own gender. 2 times in that film we see it. Not in the Cicely Tyson movie. It is totally explained how Harriet narrates how she was taught how to navigate the river through her father, so she knew how to follow constellation and also follow that water. She knew what to do. So, the big along piece. If you read Maryland slave history, common sense slave history, you will know during that time that there were some free slaves, but there weren't no free slaves running around there with no pistols. There were no free slaves running around there with guns like that. Now, did you have some black men who did help track African Americans? Yes, you certainly did. Did they have the freedom of Big Along? No, they didn't. No. And you wouldn't even trust a Big Along for a job like that. You can't trust the Big Along. There was no trust going on. There were so many slaves running away. They weren't trying to trust no slave to do anything. Not at those levels. They had put certain laws in place just to shut Harriet down. So of course they're not trusting too many black people in this time. How do they discount themselves again? Well, let me tell you how the female director discounts herself again. And she could have went into the historical record and put some history on the screen. Why didn't she show and depict white female bounty hunters who were quite popular at this time as those primary to hunting Harriet? Showing a piece of history that's never really been discussed. Because white women, we were taught, are all dormant and docile, and they just do what their hubby tells them to do, because that's how white women were back in those times. Let's not show that there were white women that were honestly out there, be it evil as they were, who were bounty hunters, who did go out there and search for people. Oh no, we have to discount that too. Spending so much time discounting your own gender when you could have made some true history. You could have pointed at 2 powerful pieces. Did bigger long exist? Hell emphatically no. And to blatantly disrespect black males in your film, to have your most violent character in the time of slavery being a black male who beats to death a black woman, just shows where the director's mind state was. Shows where the agenda is. It shows how she's quick to back that agenda, but not quick to back the agenda of women and their roles in history, their roles in our society and country. There was no backing of that. Yet we get bigger long. Just a play on him being a big dick nigga. Let's call it what it is. We get bigger long, but we don't get anything else that places women in their true place in history in the film. So those are some misconceptions I quickly call in the film. Some historical accuracies are there. There are some of them. We talk about the bounty, the difference between the bounties in both films. One bounty was kind of exaggerated. It wasn't no $40,000 bounty on heroin, maybe about $300, maybe. As far as, you know, them talking about her hanging out with William Stills, dissing Frederick Douglass, which he does in this film, the man who wrote her this famous letter that anybody can see, the Frederick Douglass letter to Harriet Tubman, having her diss and downplay Frederick Douglass in the film. Come on, that's just a part of agenda. That's just a part of agenda. And you waste your time with allowing people to make you attack your own. You wasted time with that when you had an opportunity to really open the door and really show some historical light on the things and abilities that these great women had. And like I said, it was some bad women out there too, but at least show, hey, they just weren't sitting in a house being docile. They were actually out there part of this too. And had some skills too. And when you have the ability to show the things that women were able to do, you don't do it. But you run quickly to agenda. And of course, like I said, they were quick to show a black man in a dress. If you've watched the movie, you saw that piece too. She spent a lot of time downplaying black men. Spent a lot of time in this film downplaying black men. And, you know, this is the mind state. This is the mind state because Hollywood needs this agenda to stay on. They need us to be after each other just like they're after their women. They need battle of the sexes on both sides for this to work. And we have to stop buying into these agendas, especially when we're talking about historical figures like Harriet Tubman. Talk about the things that you know this woman was able to accomplish. Talk about the feats that she was able to accomplish, why people were in awe of her. But don't act like, you know, she didn't have abilities and skills, that she had to learn this from someone. No, that's not true. She had already learned that growing up, and she was able to take those abilities and skills and master them when she got older. And that's what you should be teaching young black women. You don't teach them about bigger longs who didn't exist. Teach them the real history. But don't be out just trying to sell agendas of belittling your own men. You're going to belittle your own man, but then you show William Stills. How can you belittle your man when you're in awe of William Stills? When you're in awe of the Frederick Douglasses of the world? When you were in awe of her father and the strength that he impelled? Don't spend the movie downplaying that. That is just as important. But hit the historic parts, hit the historic markers, hit the things that Harriet did. This whole movie really should have been about Harriet's time in the Civil War. That should have been the entirety of this film. Harriet's time in the Civil War. That would have made a great movie because historically, that's something that no one really knows about. It would have made a great movie. She could have rocked that movie, really hit a lot of points, and made it as historic as possible. She went away from it because she did not want to show violence perpetrated between African Americans and Caucasians. That's why she didn't make that movie. You can't sugarcoat history. You can't sugarcoat. You can't take away from things that took place. It was not all Disney. It was not all Disney. Slavery was not Disney. Slavery was not Disney. You can't sugarcoat history. Mr. Mahdi, Back Row Ministry, peace.